Welcome to hashtag 52 Needs. And this week we're talking about competence. And I'm so delighted to have with me Josh Langley, who is the author of the award-winning Being You is Enough book series for kids. He promotes positive mental and emotional health messages for children through his books, presentations, primary school talks, video charity work, and online programs. After failing high school and being unemployed, Josh went on to become a multi-award-winning radio copywriter and publish 9 books, 4 of which are the kids' books, and win the 2018 Australia Book Industry Awards Small Publishers Children's Book of the Year. He hosts his own chat show, Josh Langley Gets to Know, where he talks with authors, children's wellness specialists, and people with inspiring stories. Welcome, Josh. It's so lovely to see you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I know. Thank you for having me here. Looking forward to this.
So we're talking competence.
Interesting subject, isn't it?
Yeah, because that's a topic for you, isn't it?
It is.
So do you want to tell us about that?
About competence?
About and what it means in your life?
Well, I looked at the actual definition because you got your own idea of what competence is, and you look at what the actual definition is, and that's basically doing something well. And my life, I have not done anything well.
Except being an award-winning writer, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I started off with whatever I was doing, not doing it well, and then I got better at it through just practice. And just the audacity to keep going. And then when I kept going with whatever it was, I got better at it.
Yeah.
And I was able to put my unique spin on something, which then gave it traction, whether it was the copywriting, or whether it was the writing books, or whether it was illustrating or creating online courses. Everything I did, I started off not being competent. And I think a lot of people, they think they need to do something well in order to get started. And that becomes a block. That becomes that sort of, I won't do that because I should be doing it well, and people will laugh at me and it's going to fail. Whereas I'm the opposite. I go, well, what is this opportunity? What is, I want to create it. Like recently I've created an online course for kids, and I've got no idea how to do it. I've got no idea what I'm doing. So Google everything, research, reach out to people, find out what it is, and then start building it and creating it. And then you go, now I've got a bit of an idea, but I didn't let it stop me from starting. And I think that's one of the
course.
Sorry?
And it's a great course.
Thank you. And it's like, because I want to do it so much, that the idea of failing at it doesn't affect me. I just go, I'm going to do this anyway. And that's the same thing with my kids' books and with wanting to get into radio, doing copywriting. As these things just, I think the drive for that went, okay, well, I don't need to worry about doing it well. I just need to start. And that's the theme, because I've got a book called Find Your Creative Mojo. And that was getting people to overcome that idea that they had to be good at something, they had to be good at painting, they had to be good at drawing, good at writing before they could actually start doing it. And that's what is the block for a lot of people. And I said, no, you don't need to do that. You just need to show up. And then
it's the equivalent of saying if saying, I'm going to learn how to drive a car, but before I go to driving school, I'm going to learn it.
Yeah. Exactly. But that's how people tackle life, isn't it? And whether their work or whether it's in their family life or life in general, they think they've got to be good at something before they can actually go off and do it. And I think that's crazy.
And I think what we do these days is also there's this expectation that we need to pick up things really, really quickly. I always joke when my courses, when I say it to people, you need to repeat this. This is not an exercise you do once or twice. You need to build the neural networks in order to establish a new habit, a new skill. And you'll need to fail repeatedly so you actually learn what you're doing. But, if you treat yourself like, if you all remember what it's like when you see a child when they learn how to walk. And the adults that are watching are going, yay, and the child falls over and everybody goes, yay, and the child gets up again and starts walking again. If we treated ourselves, like if we had told the child, you've fallen over 3 times, enough is enough. You've had a year to watch me walk. Seriously, I could have given you books about this topic. Don't you think that it's time that you actually walk? And by the way, while we're on topic, I've registered you for the marathon, the half marathon. I was gently in the next in 3 weeks time. So you better get your act together. But we do this when we're adults.
That is so true. I love that analogy. That is so true. And that's what we say to ourselves. That's what we say to other people. And there is no space in there.
No,
because the actual learning process.
Exactly. And when we treat ourselves like that, I tell you, if we treated children the same way we're treating ourselves, we would all be crawling around on our floors. No kid would be walking. They would go, it's just too hard. Forget it.
It's that expectation that once you're an adult, you need to learn it fast, and you need to be competent really quickly. Because usually in the workplace, because time and effort has been put into training someone to either at the start of the employment or whatever they need to do. And so therefore you've got to come up to speed fast. And if you don't, you're then deemed a failure. A liability to the company. Well, so and so. And that's one of the things that I'll look at, especially with kids, how everyone learns differently. Everyone learns at different rates, and they learn in different methods. For me personally, it takes me a long time to let things sink in. Like if I'm reading an instruction for something, I need to read it several times for really to absorb it, and then I need to do it as another way of, as you were saying, getting those neural networks happening and creating those pathways, and then keep on doing it. If like, you learn something new, then you put it aside and you forget about it, you're going to learn it all again. Well, if you keep on practicing and doing that, you're going to create those pathways.
Exactly. And then it's like the bicycle riding, you never unlearn, right? We don't really get to this. I mean, I know that, for example, when I was a child, I always wanted to try out new things. And my parents were very insistent that I needed to stick with something before I was able to allowed to change it. So it wasn't, I'm going to start a course and three weeks in, I'm going, nah, I don't really like this. It was like, you're going to finish this course. And then you decide if you want to go on to the next course. But there was nothing like, okay, well, you don't like that. You've given it a go twice. Forget it. It doesn't really work. But again, it's just, we're just in a world now where the expectation is that you also become very competent very quickly. Because on the flip side, I did ballet for quite a while and I loved it. I absolutely loved dancing. And I was about 9 at the time. And my parents had a chat with a ballerina who said, well, she's never going to be a ballerina. So my parents decided, well, that wasn't worth it then.
Oh,
so
really?
they took me out of the course. And I was devastated because I just wanted to dance. I didn't want to be a ballerina. I wanted to dance. I was having a ball.
The sheer joy and self-expression of it.
Exactly. So I was competent, but I wasn't I wasn't a genius. I wasn't really going to be a standout figure. And so that was then cut off. And I've always been sad about that, because it's not that I would have ever ended up in a dance career, but it took me years to get back to it.
Yeah, and that would have had some scarring there for you, and especially with confidence and things like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's like we don't allow ourselves to do things for the sheer joy of it. What outcomes? It's good, but it's all about what outcomes are there, and that's I suffer from that. I've very much because of my upbringing and a bit of childhood trauma and stuff, and always wanting to look for safe spaces, even as an adult, because you still carry this all the way through. It's like whatever I do has to have an outcome or has to have a financial outcome. So I have trouble just doing something for the sheer joy of it.
But
and I think
you take risks. I mean, you do quit jobs and you do things,
Yes, but that's I think that's because I've got to a critical mass at a certain point. And I've got to do something. It's almost like the world's pushing me to do something and a lot of people don't take that opportunity. They don't jump. They don't take a leap. They don't take a leap of faith or whatever. They stay there, and mental health quality declines.
Yes.
But I find that not attaching an outcome, like say, how often do people go, I'm going to do an online course about, let's just say, photography or something like that, just because I want to do it and I want to enjoy it. Whereas sometimes people go, okay, well, I'll do an online course about photography and then I'll become a professional photographer and then that'll replace my job that I hate, yada, yada. And you end up putting too much expectation on something. And then you've got to be more than competent as opposed to just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And that sometimes just having the sheer joy, that manifests and that pushes things and that moves things, and the universe goes, oh, okay, well, you enjoy being a photographer. Well, how about let's create some opportunities to do that for you? You know, we try and force things and put too much expectation on things. And that whole competency thing, that external pressure to be competent, to be good, we put on ourselves. It comes from outside, and then we end up losing the joy and the fun of life.
Yeah. Well, I always love this model of, you know, you unconsciously incompetent, then you're consciously incompetent, then you're consciously competent, and then you're unconsciously unconsciously competent when you're running on automatic.
Yes.
And it's in between. It's where we're the dance between consciously incompetent and consciously competent. That's where we're learning. Because that's when we recognize we made a mistake, and that's where we're going. But we want to get to this place of unconsciously competent where everything goes on automatic. I can get on the bicycle and I know how, you know, I'm just going to be able to ride the bike while I'm talking on the phone to somebody or whatever it is I'm doing. But it's the stretching out of that, you know, the stretching out of the comfort zone. That's where we really build the competence, also not just to do things on automatic, but to be able to think on our feet, to be able to deal with all sorts of situations. And I think those are competencies that we don't generally embrace. We're supposed to be experts.
Yeah.
I like being a generalist. I like to learn lots of different things about lots of different things.
And I think you're right, actually. There's too many experts out there. And what do they call it? In silos. Everyone's in silos, an expert in this, an expert, which is not good to a certain degree. But then where do we find the joy in doing other things? As you said, being a generalist, and the sense of discovery, the sense of curiosity, the sense of letting curiosity guide you to places that you thought you would never, ever go. And then suddenly you become actually competent in something because you've actually enjoyed it. And you go, oh, I actually really like this. And that's that subconscious, as you're talking about, competency that come in and go, okay, I like doing this. So I'm kind of good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always interesting for me that people often equate competence with intelligence. And as far as I'm concerned, they've got absolutely nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I always loved Edward de Bono, who said, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. What matters how you are intelligent.
Yeah, I know.
That's like bringing it back to the skills and to the application, you know, rather than having great headspace and sitting in that.
For me, I think intelligence is fairly overrated, or maybe used in the not a most appropriate way, because people, it's like, oh, that person's so intelligent, but are they kind?
Yeah.
You know, are they creating are they unleashing their creativity? Are they sharing things with the world? Are they being generous? You know, those sort of things. I think those things are way more important than intelligence.
And the other thing is, how competent are they in leading a life that is, you know, fulfilling and happy? Because a lot of people who are really smart, in my experience, are often not that happy. Because there's all this, as you said before, there's all this expectation that they have to be really, really good at something. And when they're not, and I love it. I mean, I came this close to becoming a professor. You know, I was really going the academic route, you know, like completely different to you. I was going to be the expert. And then I looked at the people around me and went, I can't do this.
What did they look like? What was the thing with them?
Oh, there was very little emotional intelligence. You know, I had professors who were accused, like I had one professor when I was studying in the US who was accusing me of having no cultural intelligence or social intelligence because I left his class on the dot, whereas he would go out with his students for a beer afterwards. And I had told him that I was doing I was at the time I was doing another class in another department, but that was not on his radar because it wasn't in his department, and his department didn't run any classes after 6 p.m. So for
Yeah.
him, I was disrespectful. And so he marked me down at the end of the class.
Oh, seriously? Oh, wow.
Seriously.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh.
And I mean, I had several of those, when I went again, I love doing a little bit of interior design, and I had created with very little materials. I had created a room with, like all sorts of stuff. And my professor came into the room at one point. I had a party, and he looked around and he said, "This does not look like the room of a typical history student." And it wasn't a compliment.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So I was like, okay, you can have your life. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Please go and have your life. But I think I'm going to choose a different one. And then I found myself on a plane going to Hong Kong and going, how did I end up accepting a job that I don't know what I'm getting paid for? Oh, well, I'll figure it out.
And that's a great attitude. I mean, that's another thing. That's where as you said, the intelligence can get in the way of actually, because intelligence, it says I'm in my head.
Yeah.
I'm living in my brain, and that's to the exclusion of your emotions, of your body, of interaction with other people, self-awareness, all those sort of things, and it puts the brain at the top of everything when really it's just part. The brain is just
We've got
part
the
of everything.
heart, we've got the gut brain, we've got all of those, right?
Exactly. And as you said, how are you going to use that intelligence? Some people use it really well. We all know some amazing, intelligent people that are using it wisely. Like, I think the social historian Hugh McKay, the Australian guy, he smart, so smart, but he uses it in a really kind, gentle way to help people, to get his message across and to bring people along for the ride. He's a perfect example of using intelligence in that way.
Well, it's turning intelligence into a competence.
Yes. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was, like again, there are so many competencies out there that are supposedly related to intelligence, but it's like, again, you can develop this. You can bring the competency in, and then, I mean, I love what Edward de Bono always says. You can have a car, like a really big, super, like a luxury car, but if you don't know how to drive it well, in a race, you're going to win against the VW Beetle driver, who's a really good driver every single time. So, and I always say, it's going to be much more important to learn how to drive your car, your internal Beetle or luxury car, whatever it might be, really well. Because otherwise.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah.
It's about, for me, it's all about behavior and skill. Developing that.
Yeah. And I suppose for me, it's also not letting things get in the way of that curiosity, or that I'm just going to give something a go, even though I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to do it, but I will find a way, because I think that may show a sign of intelligence as well, because knowing that you don't know the answers is an intelligent thing to do, and going, well, I don't know, I will go find out, or I'm going to go give it a go, going to try it out and see what happens.
That's what's it called? Metacognition.
Yeah.
That's a competence that's really, really important, and that we often don't teach children, for example. So when you're thinking this, what is important about that thought? What works? And you've written a book about that self-talk book, right? I can't remember what it's called.
Being You Was Enough, that one, because I talk about that. I talk about self-awareness and self-talk in that book.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's about that inner dialogue where we just go, can I do this? Can I not do this? Can I do this? Oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or dad always said, or mom always said, and maybe teachers' voices, all of these voices that we have in our head who tell us that we're not competent. Mastering that voice, for me, that was one of the biggest competencies ever. That was just when I realized that I didn't want those voices in my head anymore, and that it was more important what I thought about myself. Life changed.
And that's the power, isn't it? That's even if you're not competent in anything else in the world, but if you can become competent in that metacognition, that listening to that internal monologue, and deciding, do I believe that? Can I change that narrative? And you when you become competent in that, even just to the point of noticing, you may not be able to act on it, but if you can notice, that's
Yeah.
huge. That's life-changing, as you said.
Absolutely. And then looking at the skills that, that we need. I always differentiate between the adult with a lowercase a and the adult with a capital A, because the lowercase a is somebody who knows how to pay bills, how to pay taxes, how to run a household, all of those skills that we've got. But the adult with a capital A, that's somebody who knows how to manage themselves really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows themselves, who knows how to manage emotions, how to have difficult conversations, all of these skills that we are supposed to, life skills, we're supposed to just sort of, we'll just absorb them. Sometime in life, we'll just have them.
And yeah, exactly. This expectation, we're meant to be an adult with a capital A.
Yeah.
And when there's no way of learning it,
No.
you really have to, it's a journey of self-discovery that you've got to take yourself and guide yourself through. And, but it's not many people are aware enough to do that, because there's so many lowercase adults out there just driving, they're running the country, sadly.
Yes.
You just look at the current government we've got and you just go, there's no self-awareness, there's no empathy, there's no emotional intelligence, there's none of that. And look, I know that's the majority of most sort of governments and management corporations and stuff, but it is slowly changing though. There is slowly, and I think it's, do you find in the corporate sector, that's where you're finding some change happening, where you're getting these adults who are becoming more self-aware?
Yes. Well, we'll talk about that in the other interview.
Okay.
I'll tell you much more about that. So whoever's listening to this, there's another interview about competence at work. But thank you. That was a good segue. So how about we'll finish this. And I think, if I may summarize, we both agree that competence is the ability to step out of your comfort zone and saying, I'm not competent at something, but I'm willing to give it a go. And that it's about more about, yes, it's about being good at something, but it's about an attitude more than the expectation of being really good immediately.
Yes.
The willingness.
And you know what? There's a word that goes with that, and that's called courage.
Yes.
It takes courage to step into the unknown, to go, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try it and I'm going to give it a go and I'm going to practice till I get good at it and then I become competent.
Yes.
And I think that courage is such an empowering word to use, because I think everyone has courage inside them.
Yes.
And just need to tap into it.
Totally agree with you. Okay. On that note, thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you, Angela. It's been wonderful.
Thanks everybody for listening in and tuning in, and we'll see you and hear you next time. Thanks.